There's something wrong. Woohoo, sorry. There's something wrong. Sorry about that. There's something, whoops, wrong. Okay, well, I don't know what's wrong, but anyway, I hope you can see me okay. There's something really funky happening with my phone. Hi everyone, this is Katherine. Welcome to Yoga Flow, and yeah, I hope everybody's feeling okay. I hope you can see me. One thing I wanted to share with you today was I'm going to focus the practice on hip openers and kind of like loosening the hips, because we store a lot of emotion and a lot of unresolved, I would say, situations, mostly in the hip area. So I thought with everything that's happening, we could we can try and open those hips and loosen them up a bit. So let's begin. Everybody, you can come and sit in a comfortable cross-legged position, and feel your sits bones rooted into the mat where you're sitting, and just notice where your sits bones are meeting the mat. You can close your eyes, and you can just bring your awareness to your breath. Wherever you are, just notice how your breath happens naturally. You have to do nothing. Notice the cool air coming in through your nostrils, and notice the warm air coming out of your nostrils. You can place your hands on your knees. Maybe it might be good to make an intention for this class. Maybe for the next 45-50 minutes, just say that you can or you would like to send a prayer to somebody you love, or wish something great to happen. Whatever it is, make it yours. And just turn your gaze inward and just notice how your breathing is going. Take a few more deep breaths. In cross-legged position, I'm just going to turn on the music. And then slowly you can open your eyes. And from a cross-legged position, it's a perfect segue into just keep your knees bent and bring your feet together. So bring your feet together in Baddha Konasana. And you can interlace your fingers and hold on to your toes. Your spine is lifted. So again, that sensation of rooting your sits bones into the mat, lifting your tailbone down, but your spine up. So rooting your tailbone down and lifting your spine up, and actually see if you can create space between each and every vertebra. So I'm squeezing my toes together, I'm pressing my heels and my toes together, and naturally what happens is my knees want to reach the floor and my hips naturally want to open. You can keep your eyes open or closed. Just really, really feel the sensation deep within your hip joint. Noticing that your sits bones are still rooting into the mat. So we're grounding and opening at the same time. And lifting the spine up. And also, your belly is not just loose, it's engaged. So the more you're pushing your hips open and you're trying to reach your knees on the mat, the more you're engaging your belly. Now you can either stay here, or you can take a deep inhale and push your chest forward. Push your chest forward. So how that works is you're trying to simultaneously kind of bring your pelvic bone closer to your heels and your chest closer to the floor. At the same time, you can press your elbows into your thighs so you can reach forward more. And notice the sensation of your hips opening. The sensation is getting stronger. So keep pushing your elbows into your thighs and go as much as you can, okay? So find your comfort zone and then go a little bit beyond it, just a little. Because you don't want to do too much all at once. And again, you can feel the opening, if the stiffness, just listen to your body. Now the other thing to pay attention, if you are moving forward, keep rooting your sits bones down. That increases the sensation into the hips. Keep pressing your elbows into your thighs. And if you can reach your nose and your toes. Then you can go for it. Wherever you are, take 2 deep breaths. Just really, really deep breaths. I think there's something wrong with the camera, but anyway. And when you're ready, just bring your hands on the outside of your knees and bring your knees close together. And then find your own way to come on your hands and knees. So hands and knees. Again, this is the magic configuration of your hands. Fingers spread wide, knuckles is the most contact with the mat, not the wrist fleshy part. So spread your fingers wide, feel the sensation of your hands pressing into the mat. Your wrists and your shoulders are aligned. Your knees are hip distance apart. The tops of your feet are on the mat. So press the tips of your hands, the knuckle part of your hands into the mat, and you'll feel your whole arm, upper arm, forearm really straighten. You'll also feel your belly or your navel trying to reach the back of your spine. See if you can lift your belly up and back. even though you're pushing your hands into the mat. So crucial. Now find that sweet spot. Keep pressing your hands into the mat. And then when you're ready, you can lift your left leg behind you. Now make sure you drop your left hip. Make sure you keep on pressing your hands into the mat. Your arms are straight. And when you're ready, you can lift your right arm also up and reach forward like you're trying to say hello and shake somebody's hand. And of course, we're not supposed to shake people's hands, coronavirus, but pretend you're reaching for that hand sanitizer. So reach for that hand sanitizer. Your left hand presses into the mat, left leg up, right arm forward. So this is a strengthening pose and also balancing pose. And release. So press your right hand back into the mat and press your left knee on the mat. And come to your neutral position and to get ready for the other side. And again, press both hands into the mat, and when you're ready, lift your right leg back up, drop your right hip. Now, for me, this feels a little bit different from my left side, but that's okay. So drop your right hip, keep pressing your hands into the mat. Now when you're ready, you can lift your left arm forward and reach forward. So you're reaching with your right toe to hit an imaginary button behind you, and forward, you're reaching for that hand sanitizer or whatever else you want. And make sure your belly is lifted, and place your left hand on the mat and your right knee back on the mat. Now again, find your neutral position, everybody. Keep pressing your hands into the mat. Tuck your toes. Lift your knees or float your knees 1 centimeter off the mat. And we're going to stay here 10, 9, 8, just 1 centimeter, not 5 centimeters. 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Untuck your toes and come and sit on your heels. So come and sit on your heels. We're going to do that one more time. Take a big breath. Okay, come back on your hands and knees. And again, your fingers are spread wide. The knuckle part of your hand is in most contact with the mat. You're really pressing your hands into the mat to straighten your elbows, straighten your upper arms, strengthen your upper arms. Tuck your toes under. And when you're ready, inhale, float your knees off the mat, both knees off the mat. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, come on, and exhale, release. Good. Untuck your toes, tops of the feet are on the mat. So I'm going to try and do one more kind of upper body kind of asana. So from your hands and knees, I want everybody to come on your elbows and your hands are on the mat. So don't interlace your fingers. Hands are on the mat. Both knees are on the mat. Both elbows are on the mat. And when you're ready, you're going to extend your right leg behind you and dig your right toes into the mat. Really place them firmly into the mat. And when you're ready, do the same thing with your left leg. So kick your left leg back, dig your left toes into the mat. Now, Everybody, I want you to shift your weight a little bit forward. Imagine there's a cup and your nose is floating above the cup of tea. So you don't want to drop your nose into the cup of tea. You want to keep it lifted. Drop your hips, but don't sink in the hips. 5, 4, 3, lift your belly. 2, 1, exhale. Come back to your hands and knees. Come to neutral position. We're going to do that one more time. Maybe 2. The key to this is really, really pressing your hands into the mat and engaging your core and also breathing. So let's do it again. From your hands and knees, everybody, elbows on the mat, hands on the mat, fingers spread wide. Engage your belly. When you're ready, extend your right leg back and dig your right toes into the mat. And then extend your left leg back, dig your left toes into the mat, and go for it. So shift your weight forward. Your elbows are in the mat. Your hands are also pushing in the mat. You're lifting your hips up, but not too up. You're not sinking in the hips. And your nose is above the teacup. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Come on your hands and knees. I think there's a message there. Oh, okay, cool. So let's do it one more time, everyone. I'm not going to do it, but I'll walk you through it. So hands and knees. Find your position and elbows, both elbows on the mat, hands digging into the mat. And when you're ready, extend your right leg behind you, dig your right toes into the mat. Find your breath, extend your left leg behind you, dig your left toes into the mat, shift your weight forward and go into low plank, preparation for Pincha Mayurasana, creating that upper body strength for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Everybody come back on your hands and knees. So what we're going to do is you're going to tuck your hip, tuck your toes, lift your hips, and come into downward facing dog. So again, in downward facing dog, I'm going to walk you through it. So really, really press your hands into the mat, create space between your fingers, knuckle parts touch. I can't say it enough. Push your hands forward and into the mat. Lift your tailbone up. Try and bring your heels energetically, if they can touch, on the mat. And look at your navel, trying to create the most perfect upside down V. So downward facing dog, if you do it properly, is a complete body stretch. And it actually moves all the organs inside. So when you're pressing your hands into the mat, you feel the stretch underneath your armpits, all the way to the back side of your body, your legs, your calves, your muscles. Lift your kneecaps up, lift your thigh muscles up. And again, your feet are hip distance apart. Try and look at your navel. Lift your belly. Now everybody, see if you can walk your feet just 3 or 4 centimeters forward. And keep your left hand where it is and take your right hand and bring it on the outside of your left ankle or on your left calf, and see if you can look under your left armpit. So keep pressing your left hand into the mat, looking your left armpit, engaging your belly. Keep lifting your belly up. And when you're ready, release. Both hands back on the mat. Keep pressing your hands forward and away from you. Shift your weight into your right hand, release your left hand, and reach for your right ankle. Look under your right armpit. Keep pressing your right hand into the mat. Keep lifting your belly. This is kind of like a gentle twist. And place both hands back on the mat. And everybody, feet together, lift your heels, look at your hands, bend your knees, step up or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. And exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Now everybody, backs of the knees straight. Bring your hands or your fingers forward. Feet are together, heels are together. On the inhale, lift your chest up and look up like somebody's pulling the top of your head. And exhale, keep everything lifted even as you fold forward. Again, inhale, half lift. And exhale, fold forward. Last time, inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, press your feet into the mat. Really, really dig your feet into the mat. Arms over your head in a big circle. Palms touch. Exhale, hands in prayer position. So, let's start with 2 Surya Namaskar A. Feet together. Pull your thighs up. Pull your kneecaps up. Your popo is tucked under. Your shoulders are down. Your abdominal wall is lifted and your belly is engaged. So press your feet into the mat, even though you're lifting your arms over your head, palms touch. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, step or jump into high plank. Hold. Lower yourself, chaturanga, low push-up. Inhale, roll over your toes. Exhale, downward facing dog. So keep the sensation of downward facing dog always alive, okay? So it's a transition pose, but I like to use downward facing dog as a complete body stretch, as I mentioned. It really, really helps me open up. Everybody, see if you can find your navel. Take one last breath and bring your feet together. Lift your heels, bend your knees. Look at your hands and step up or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, fold forward even though you keep everything lifted. Inhale, press your feet into the mat. Big circle, arms over your head. Palms touch. Exhale, hands in prayer position. Last one. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, step or jump into high plank. Lower yourself, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, roll over your toes, lift your hips, push yourself into downward facing dog. And again, I keep reminding you to press your fingers and your hands into the mat and away from you, lifting your tailbone up. And bring your feet together. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bring your heels and toes. Lift your heels, bend your knees, and everybody look at your hands. And step up or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift yourself up and look up. Exhale, fold forward. Now inhale, press your feet into the mat. Arms up, palms touch. And now we're gonna kind of step it up a little bit. Use a little bit of the hip. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, step or jump into high plank. Lower yourself, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now on the inhale, everybody lift your right leg up. Keep pressing your hands into the mat. Keep pressing your left heel down. It's important that your left heel is on the mat. So you're kind of creating this opposing force of pushing down and pushing away. You really should feel it in the back of your calf. Now everybody bend your right knee and open your right hip. Keep opening your right hip. Press your hand into the mat. See if you can reach your nose and your knee together. That'll kind of increase the external rotation and also give you a better, I hope, hamstring stretch. And inhale, extend your right leg behind you. Keep your right leg in the air. Inhale, come into high plank. Exhale, low push-up. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. All right. Inhale, lift your left leg up. Right heel is on the mat. Keep pushing your right heel into the mat and pushing your hands forward and away from you. Bend your left knee, open your left hip. The more you create this opposing force, the more you feel it in the back of your calf, back of your knee, your right knee, back of your right hamstring, and the more your left hip opens. And inhale, straighten your left leg behind you, keep it there. Come into high plank, keep it there. Lower yourself, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths. This was a hard one. And bring your heels and your toes together. Everybody lift your heels, bend your knees, look at your hands, step, hop, or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, press your feet into the mat, arms over your head, palms touch. Exhale, hands in prayer position. Why don't we do that one more time? Inhale, arms over your head. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, step or jump into plank, hold, don't rush. And lower yourself, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your right leg up. And on the exhale, bend your right knee, open your hip. And again, try and bring your left heel close to the mat as possible. It should be on the mat. Push your hands away from you. Open your right hip. On the inhale, extend your right leg back up and come forward into high plank with your right leg back up and lower yourself, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Last time, left side. Inhale, left leg up. Exhale, bend your left knee, open your left hip. And again, your right heel is really digging into the mat. Your hands are pushing forward and away. You feel it all behind your right leg, hopefully from the calf, back of the knee to the right hamstring. Inhale, extend your left leg behind you. Keep it up and come into high plank. And lower yourself, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Keep lifting your navel up and towards the back of your spine. And bring your feet together. Heels and toes touching. Inhale, lift your hips up. Bend your knees. Look at your hands. Step up or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, fold forward. Now, everybody on the inhale, lift your chest up and look up. And exhale, step your left leg back. Bring your left knee on the mat, top of the left foot on the mat. So your right knee is bent, your right foot is on the mat, your left knee is on the mat, the top of your left foot is on the mat. And everybody bring both hands on your hips. Now you notice that your right hip is probably more forward than your left hip. So I encourage you to, everybody, try and bring your right hip back and your left hip forward. Now you can keep your hands on your hips, or you can place both hands on top of your right knee. And on the inhale, you're going to lift your chest up. And on the exhale, you're going to push your hips forward and down. So as you're pushing your hips forward and down, your belly, though, is lifting up and towards the back of your spine. So you really should feel engagement in your right hip area and a stretch in the left hip flexor area. Just stay with your breathing. If you want, and if you can, sink a little bit deeper, feel it deeper into the hips on the right hand side, and the stretching of your hip flexor, on the left hand side. Now you can either stay here, or if you feel brave enough, you can come on your elbows, you can interlace your fingers, you can turn your right foot out, and you can drop your left hip on the mat. Turn your right leg out. You can also take your right hand and push your left knee actually out. Look over your right shoulder, whatever works for you. You can also just stay here. Most important is that you feel the external rotation in your right hip by dropping also your left hip closer to the mat, squaring off your hips. And when you're ready, you can turn your right foot back inside, and you can press your hands into the mat. So both hands on the inside of the right foot. Now I want everybody to tuck your left toes under, and when you're ready, you can come into low lunge, arms up, really feel it in the hips. I feel it. Exhale, both hands back on the mat, come into high plank, lower yourself, chaturanga, inhale, upward facing dog, exhale, downward facing dog. And when you're ready, inhale, left leg up, and exhale, step it to the front of the mat. So your right knee goes on the mat, and top of the right foot is on the mat. And both hands are on your hips. And again, adjust and make sure that your left hip is back and your right hip is forward. Don't drop the belly, keep the belly lifted. So we have our hands on our hips because it's really easy to see and notice when your left hip is forward and when you push your left hip back. On the inhale, lift your chest up, lift your belly, and on the exhale, drop your hips and push them forward or push them towards the mat. So forward and down, pushing your hips forward and down, so you should feel it in the left hip engaged and the stretching of the right hip flexor. So the more you push forward and down, the more you're going to feel the activation in your hip area. And of course, there should be no stabbing pain, no kind of tingling sensation. If you have that, you stop immediately. You can take both hands and rest them on your left knee. And again, keep your spine lifted straight, even though you're sinking your hips down and your belly is lifting up and towards the back of your spine. And you can stay here if you want, or you can come on your elbows. You can turn your left foot out and come on your elbows. You can interlace your fingers. And again, drop the right hip, turn the left foot out. You can place your left hand on the outside of your left knee or on the inside of your left knee and look over your left shoulder. And one more breath. And place both hands back on the mat. Turn your left foot in. When you're ready, you can tuck your right toes under, float your right knee off the mat, and everybody come into low lunge. And you really, really feel it. So dig your right toes into the mat. You're going to really feel the sensation in the left hip. I feel it in both hips. Keep your belly lifted, your shoulders down, your arms up. Exhale, both hands back on the mat. Come into high plank, low push-up. Inhale, upward facing dog. Now everybody just come into child's pose. Just take a little break for a minute. So it wouldn't be a class with Katherine without the following pose. So stay in child's pose. So I hope everybody kind of feels a little bit more loose in the hips, but we're not done yet. So from child's pose, everybody come on your hands and knees. And tuck your toes, lift your hips, and push yourself into downward facing dog. And feet are together. Your toes are touching, your heels are touching. Lift your heels, bend your knees, look at your hands. Step up or jump to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift your chest up and look up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, everybody sit in Utkatasana. So sit in your favorite chair pose, but don't stick the popo out. Your thighs are together, your knees are together. If your toes and heels touch, great. Arms are forward. Your shoulders are into, like, in your shoulder sockets. And stay here for 10, 9, 8, 7, don't forget to breathe, 6, 5, 4, keep lifting your belly up, 3, 2, and exhale. Everybody just come and sit on your sits bones and spread your legs wide as much as your body will allow you. We're going to do Upavishta Konasana, or wide angle seated forward bend. So if your hips are nice and open and stretched, that would be a good thing. So what I want you to do is notice that your legs don't roll kind of inward. So on your sits bones, try and keep rolling your thighs and your calves outward, your feet outward. Feel your sits bones. And if this is all that you can do, that's great. But if you have enough external rotation in your hips and you want to go forward, make sure your thighs don't roll inward. You keep rotating your thighs outward, even though you're trying to bring your elbows on the mat. Your feet can be flexed. And of course, the ultimate is to bring your chest on the mat with your legs open wide. Your thighs rolling outward, not inward. Your feet are flexed. Just go for it and do your best. We're going to stay here for a minute. It doesn't really matter because it's not the Yoga Olympics. If you can't go today, you'll go sometime. Or even if you don't go never, that's okay too. So find the position in Upavishta Konasana or wide angle seated forward bend that works for you. Now you can feel if you are pushing yourself forward and keep rotating your thighs out, you really feel it in your hip area, but also in the adductors. Keep rotating your thighs out. And everybody, just come back. Now, bring your legs together in front of you. You're on your sits bones. We're gonna do two more poses. So you're on your sits bones, your spine is straight. On the inhale, lift up. On the exhale, reach for your toes with your index finger and your thumb. And on the inhale, root your sits bones into the mat as you're lifting your chest forward and away from you. Keep your feet flexed and see if you can bring your nose to your shin or to your knees. So make sure that the backs of your knees are on the mat. There's some people that can reach their nose and their toes together, believe it or not. That's not me. But keep the backs of your knees on the mat. That's the most important. Now on the inhale, lift your chest up and come up. Now, I want everybody to bend your right knee and bring your left leg behind you into half pigeon or swan. So your right leg can be parallel to the short side of the mat, which is what I like because I get a little bit more hip opener. Or you can bring your right heel close to your groin. In both instances, what is really important is your hands are on either side of your hips or a little bit forward, and you're dropping your right hip down and your left hip forward. So you're pushing yourself, your hands into the mat. Your spine is a little bit straight because this is also a little bit of a back bend, not only a hip opener. So I like to have a little bit more square pose. And if I drop my left hip and I drop my right hip, I really get a nice sensation in my right hip area, but also in my right glute. And if I keep myself lifted, and if you want, you can fold forward. Keep bringing your right hip down towards the mat. I have to pay attention to the time. On the inhale, come back into your swan or your half pigeon. Now bring your weight on your right hip or your right sits bones. Swing your left leg in front of you. Come back into Paschimottanasana. Keep everything where it is. Bend your left knee and bring your right leg behind you. I'm just going to check the time. Oh yeah, we have like 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. So again, pigeon pose, extend your right leg behind you. Your hands are on either side of your hip or forward, whatever you want, feels good for you. Your your left knee can be parallel to the short side of the mat, or your left heel can come closer to your pelvic bone area or your groin. Either way, drop your left hip down and your right hip down also. So if you press your hands into the mat and lift your spine up as you're dropping your hips down, you create a nice little back bend for yourself as well. Don't drop the belly. And you can either stay here in your kind of standing swan or half pigeon, or you can bring your elbows closer to the mat. Interlace your fingers and really, really go for however much hip opener and left glute stretch you would like. And again, when you're in this posture, it's so easy to kind of forget about your belly. I mean, sometimes I forget about it too, but it's good to remind ourselves to keep on lifting the belly, engaging the belly, even though we're in this kind of awkward, sometimes uncomfortable position. Take one more deep breath. Come back into your standing swan or half pigeon. Shift your weight over to your left buttock. Swing your right leg forward. So now you have both legs forward. Let's do one last inhale. Arms up. Exhale. Now, you know what? Just round your spine. Just have the counter pose. Just round your spine, tuck your chin to your chest. Round your spine as much as possible. And when you're ready, come back up. Inhale one last time, one big breath, shoulders down, arms up. And on the exhale, see if you can lower yourself on the mat, vertebra by vertebra by vertebra. Your head reaches the mat. Last. Go for it. So everybody just come back on your mat in Shavasana. So you're lying on your back. I'm going to lie with you. Spread your legs away from your body. Your arms are also away from your body. Make like a star. Your palms face up. And you try and roll your shoulder blades together underneath you. So this is the one time that you can drop your belly and let everything go. So you're in Shavasana. Your eyes are closed. And you bring your attention to your breath. And I just ask you to notice where you're breathing. Are you breathing from the chest or are you breathing from your belly? I hope you're breathing from the belly and not from the chest, but just notice. The breath is so important, especially in these times. Relax your face. Relax your tongue, relax your cheeks. With every exhale that you take, sink deeper into the mat and let everything go. There's a lot of things that we can't control, but the one thing that is certain, we can kind of control our mind and not let it get away from us. Keep your eyes closed. Your awareness is again on your breath. And just notice each part of your body that is in contact with the mat. Just notice. You don't have to do anything. Just notice. Notice how it feels. Back of your head, your shoulders, the back of your arms, maybe your forearms, the back of your hands, your torso, your buttocks, maybe the back of your thighs, your calves, your heels, your wrists, everybody take one more deep breath, and keeping your eyes closed, you can roll over to your right or left hand side in the fetal position. No rush. And when you're ready, you can just push yourself to the top of the mat and come and sit in a comfortable cross-legged position. You can rest your hands gently on your knees. You can feel your sits bones rooting into the mat like you're an old oak tree. You've been around forever. So as you feel the sensation of rooting, you keep lifting your spine up and maybe just a little bit back so you can become straighter. Also, your belly is engaged. So it's not dropping, but it's not fully engaged. Now everybody take one big inhale through the nose and a deep exhale with a soft sigh through the mouth. Let's do that again. Inhale, fill the belly, the diaphragm all the way to the back of the throat. Hold and exhale with a soft sigh through the mouth. Last one. Inhale, fill the belly, fill the lungs, fill the chest all the way up, 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 back of the throat, hold, and exhale, release. Everybody, you can bring your hands in prayer position in front of your heart. Press your finger pads together. Your fingers are spread wide. Your thumbs are reaching or touching your sternum lightly. when you're ready, you can lift your heart space into your thumbs, broaden your chest, and soften your upper back. And slowly lower your head towards your heart. And if you want to send a prayer out to anybody special or to the world, you can do that now. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Namaste. I hope you enjoyed the class. I hope you released some emotion or tension in the hip area. And I see you next week. Ciao.